Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to the Bay Area restaurant scene with a shot at yet another menu item from the Woo Can Cook pop-up menu, which is a shredded pork sweet bun or Rousong bao. Those that have made their way to the Woo Can Cook pop-up in the last year or so will know that while our fried rice menu is the primary focus of the pop-up, our pork buns have also become increasingly popular over the last summer. For those unfamiliar, a Rousong bao features, as you might guess, a pantry-stabled Chinese dried shredded pork or Rousong, which has been folded into the bao with green onions and mayonnaise. Mayo, of course, being a classic weirdly American staple of Chinese baked buns that inexplicably works really well. Rounding this out, we'll also be pairing our Rousong with a sweet bun dough that has now come up in many different Woo Can Cook recipes. Some may also recall our tassi bao, custard bun, and cocktail buns all share this same dough. We will, however, be making some small adjustments to how the dough comes together, mainly with the inclusion of heavy cream instead of whole milk, because I have been making and tweaking this dough recipe every week for the last year. Plus, there's just never not a good time to use heavy cream, let's be honest. Okay, so let's get into it. Alright, so diving right in, we're kicking things off here with the only vegetable in our dish today, which is a couple of green onions sliced up thinly on a bias. Not really sure why I separated these by color today because these are all going into the same place, but whatever. Moving right along to what I guess you can call the highlight of the dish today, which is our bun dough. Today we're going to be doing a slightly adapted form of a Chinese milk bread, starting off with a single tablespoon of dry active yeast, followed by 2 eggs. Now, a quick tip, the reason that we're adding these eggs in so early is because if you drop some shell in, like this, you can still fish the shells out while the bowl is still relatively empty. Later on, once there's other things in our bowl, like our cream coming up, it will be virtually impossible to tell if you've lost a shell in the dough, and yes, it really does suck if you find an eggshell when you bite into your bao. Anyway, moving right along, our milk bread, as you might guess, iconically features the use of milk. Today, however, in lieu of that milk, we're going to be using some heavy cream, 1 cup's worth to be exact. This is going to contain about 30% more fat than whole milk does, and is a swap that I accidentally fell in love with because the extra fat helps to create a fluffier and softer milk bread. Moving right along, this is half a cup of white sugar going in to give our yeast something to feed on, followed by a couple of savory elements to contrast. This is 2 tablespoons of sesame oil and a pinch of kosher salt. Then next, I'm whisking this up to combine before adding in 4 cups of flour, about 1 cup at a time. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Woo cup measurements are notoriously inaccurate. Why not measure in grams? To which I would tell you, my name's Wesley. Why do people keep calling me Woo? And also, our cup measurement here, just like many things in cooking, is really intended to be an estimate because there are a lot of variables going on. What size are your eggs? How packed is your flour? And so on. So, what you really want to be paying attention to here is the consistency and moisture content of the dough itself, not just how much flour you've added. As we incorporate more flour, we're looking for our dough to start pulling away from the sides of the bowl until a cohesive dough ball forms. This should be moist but not sticky or tacky. Too much flour and it will start feeling like Play-Doh, not enough flour and it will feel more like loose mud. So, take your time and feel your way through this bit. For what it's worth, I also ended up reserving about a 1/4 cup of flour with my dough today, which is also totally okay. Finally, I'm covering this up in plastic wrap, then putting it in my oven with the oven light on to proof for 4 hours. 4 hours later, our dough should be roughly doubled in size here thanks to our wonderful yeast cultures and smelling of sweet yeasty goodness. I'm portioning these out into 3-ounce pieces each here, which should be 12 in total. I'm not actually sure what happened to my 12th piece, but I swear that I actually did make 12 of these. I don't know. Anyway, next I'm liberally flouring my work surface, then rolling these out with a 1/4 turn after each roll to help us get an even circle forming until about 6 inches in diameter. Then I'm starting off here with a thin, one more time, thin layer of mayonnaise to start. Then next up are my green onions, followed by my dry shredded pork or rousong. Then next I'm taking a tip from the Walks of Life blog and doing our baos in one of these fancy twist patterns today because I thought that they looked really pretty. I'm rolling this up into a tight roll, then pinching the top and bottom ends closed. Next, I'm using a bench scraper here to slice our roll in half, leaving it attached at the top end still. Then I'm braiding this on top of itself into a twist and repeating with my remaining 11 baos. This twist pattern is trickier than it looks, so again, don't be discouraged if your first few fall apart, because structural integrity is definitely questionable with this twist pattern, and you will lose some rousong in the process. It's okay. Last up, I'm whisking up a single egg with about 2 tablespoons of water for our egg wash. Then what you want to do is brush down your baos with this egg wash before you fold them into this twist pattern. Don't try and do it like I did after they've been braided, because the surface area of the dough is going to be a lot harder to access with a brush, making this step much harder than it needs to be. As always, I'm here to make these mistakes so that you don't have to. Finally, once these are all washed in egg, I'm finishing optionally with some furikake, or you could also use sesame seed too if that's what you've got. Then we're popping these into a 375° F oven for 20 minutes until golden brown. Finally, I'm letting these rest for 10 minutes before removing from the sheet tray, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so rousong is something that I have been eating since I was a little kid, so I have a deep and profound affection for this stuff, although I also know that there will be some skeptics here that have not had rousong before. Honestly, I can't really blame you. I didn't even know that this stuff is made out of meat until I was well into my 20s. It also doesn't help that the more common name for rousong in English is meat floss, which is just not an attractive expression. Who comes up with these names? The point is, rousong is salty, savory, and rich with umami, with the added bonus that it is also pantry stable, so you can keep it on hand to put in whatever you want. Then our mayonnaise helps to create some nice moisture on the inside of our twist without being too overwhelming. Assuming that you remembered to go light on the mayo here, it should be essentially indistinguishable outside of its contribution to creating moisture in our filling, sort of like a tasteful amount of mayo in a turkey sandwich. Finally, I will say that I definitely thought that the twist pattern here sacrifices some structural integrity for the sake of plating, but it also comes with the added bonus that the folds create these fun thinner bits and edges that crisp up during the bake, giving some nice contrasting textures when you bite into it, which I love. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to the Bay Area restaurant scene, where we more typically pay homage to other people's restaurants. So definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, we'll be adding this rousong twist to the menu at the Woo Can Cook pop-ups in the coming weeks. So come by and say hi if you can. More about that at woocancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye.